Good morning, everyone. I am Jordi Mateu, CEO of Agronomy Group, and this morning I will be presenting the Super High Density Olive webinar. As many as you know, the Super High Density Systems refers to a cultivation technique that without a doubt has revolutionized agriculture, specifically with regard to many woody species. 2020 marks the 25th anniversary of the first harvest from a super high density olive grow using the over-the-row machine in Spain. It was the first harvest following this system of olive cultivation and an event that began to change history. We wanted to celebrate this important anniversary by bringing together in a single online event the greatest experts in olive grows from around the world. Thanks to their experience and knowledge, we will reveal all the key points of the super high density model, its advantage and strength, the challenge that the future holds, how the future presents itself in varietal terms, why super high density is considered a sustainable system, or why super high density olive grows represents an interesting alternative crop for growers. And finally, we will also gain a global perspective on how the impact the model has had on the olive oil industry worldwide, with a particular focus on USA and Australia. In addition, we will also have the great pleasure of sharing the Crossroads of Chance with you, a 30 minutes documentary on the history of super high density olive orchards told through its pioneers. In order to put it together, we collected the testimony of farmers, businessmen, researchers, professors, and in short, brave men and women, visionaries and great pioneers of their time. We traveled to California, Spain, Chile, France, Portugal, and Italy, visiting the most important olive cultivation seats in this country and collecting hours and hours of footage that now, near a year of work, we are able to share with all of you. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Cliff Bommel, Managing Director of Agronomy, California. Cliff has a great deal of experience in the nursery sector in California and is very familiar with the keys to developing this model in this state. Good morning, Cliff. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Good morning, Jordi. How are you?
How have you seen the super high density system evolve in California?
Oh, it's been really interesting to watch it. And it's a continuation of something that started even before then. So, before the olives came to California in the very late 90s as super high density, a whole new system, there were people trying to deploy this system in other crops like apples and like peaches, but the time wasn't quite right. And then came the olives in a big way to California. And it really made all of us in ag sit up and take notice because what you were observing an entire new system of growing a tree crop, and you had to ask yourself why. Why would somebody do this? It's not just because it's interesting. It's what are you trying to accomplish? Why would you do this? And for me, it's really a question of technology. This is a different technology. So we think of these as orchards and trees and people working out in them and a grower trying to get a return and a market price. Yes, all that stuff is farming. But at the root of this, no pun intended, this is a different technology. So if you think about what we mean when we say technology, it's pretty simple. It's combining, a set of tools, a set of skills, methods together to accomplish a goal. And that's what super high density does. It's a different technology than a conventional orchard. So that's, I think, what's underneath the super high density olives in California and across the world, of course, is that it's a totally different technology. So the next question is, why do you deploy a different technology? What are you trying to accomplish differently? Well, what we're always trying to accomplish in agriculture is to get the most amount of very high quality product off of the land and to the market. That's always the goal. That will always be the goal. But the challenges become very different, right? The challenges of, and we can talk more about these, but of labor, of water savings, of environmental concerns, all kinds of things. as new challenges arise and become more and more prevalent, new technologies are needed to address those obstacles, those new challenges. At the same time, new technologies such as super high density give you the ability to take advantage of new opportunities, right? So at the same time, and this is true in all industries, at the same time that you solve emerging problems, those solutions also give you new opportunities. So that, to me, is the real story of super high density olives in California and other crops that I think this technology will prove useful, important, essential even. I think that this technology will prove essential for, clearly it is for olives because it's the way most olives are now produced in the world, but I think we'll see this technology in other crops as well.
Good, thank you. How do you see the future of the super high density olive model in California, Cliff?
I think that we're at an interesting point. In California, we're more or less 2 decades into this industry, which, if you compare it to other tree industries in California, means we're no longer in the infancy, but we're teenagers, let's say, in this progression. And so, of course, when you bring an entirely new technology, a new crop, even though olives have been in California for a long time, not so much for oil, not in this industrial commercial scale. And so at the 20-year point, we find ourselves, at an inflection point of a maturing industry, learning from a lot of lessons and mistakes. And what we know is that, what are the underlying facts? The underlying facts is that olive oil usage will continue to go up domestically. We know that it is a superfood. We know that when California farming has tended to put its mind to being successful in a crop, like almonds, like many things, it has proven that through using technologies, efficiencies, we figure out how to get it done, how to be competitive in the marketplace across the world, despite whatever different cost of production. You can certainly produce all of the California crops cheaper in other places than you can here, but we still are able to use our innovation, the technologies, our know-how to compete on a global stage with low-cost producers, high-quality producers. California figures it out. So I think we're at a point at which the olive industry, using super high density methods, is due for another run, because we see that the demand for the product is going to grow. We know we can make the best product in the world. And with those underlying factors, prices go up, prices go down. But when you look over the long haul, when you look out over the horizon some, you say, is this a crop that is going to be important? Are people going to want the product? Can we grow it well? Absolutely. So I think we're at the beginning of sort of this the second large wave of olive planting and of olive oil production in California. Well, specifically for olives, I see this system continuing to grow. We can't predict year to year, but we know that the large picture, the big picture, the long term, for both the opportunities that are out there and also the challenges that all California growers face, the super high density olive model looks very promising. So specifically, most of our best land, our #1 soils, are already planted to a crop. Now, of course, we cycle orchards in and out, but that property is both already planted, and in California, with 40 million people and with all the growth coming into the valleys, a lot of the best soil will be used for houses. Unfortunately, this is reality. So what do we know about olives? Olives thrive on what we would consider lower quality soils, which we have broad stretches of soils that are ideal for olives, and these are mostly untapped regions where they're used for very low value crops or no crops at all. Then the other advantage is the water use of olives, where you're using at least only 1/2 of what you would use for all other tree crops and row crops. We've gotten lucky in the last couple droughts, but everybody agrees that having crops that use less water is essential for California. It lets growers diversify their risk into this crop away from other high water use crops. That alone. So these are the obstacles that super high density olives afford us: going to poorer soils, using less water, using less high quality water, and it's diversification, which is always interesting for all businesses. And then the opportunities are what? It's that it's clear that California olives can produce among the best olive oil in the world, and we're still new at this. We're 20 years into it, and we're already producing some of the best oils in the world. It's a superfood. The consumption will continue to grow. So while year to year prices may go up, prices may go down, that's farming. But when we look out over the horizon, what we see is a growing demand from the consumer of a superfood that we can produce the best in the world with less water, with poor soils. This to me says this model fits California.
Thank you very much for your comment, Cliff. Hope to meet you in person soon.
Hey, Jordi, thank you. See you soon.
Our next guest is Ramon Rivera, CEO of Elaya, the biggest private producer of olive oil in the world, with more than 36,000 acres of super high density olive groves and the largest olive oil mill in Europe. Hi, Ramon. Buenos dias. Good morning. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Jordi?
Fine, thank you. What do you value most about the super high density model, Ramon?
Well, for us, as you know, it was a real breakthrough and something that has made or enabled us to make a big project and to be top quality growers, in the sense of being able to especially manage the harvest at the certain times of maturity of our crops, and to be able to handle a lot of area with these machines is something that it's absolutely incredible. Now, for us, what we value the most about super high density is the ability to harvest it mechanically. That is being absolutely crucial for what we do. It's true that it's as good for a small grower than for us, no? But for us, the coordination of so many machines at the harvesting season is crucial. But the whole system, it's full of really good things. No? We use very little water. We've been able to mechanize most of our pruning as well. So everything put together, it's a great advantage for us as growers. And on top of that, our quality level of our oils has been increased dramatically. No? So everything is good.
In your opinion, Ramon, what are the challenges for the future of super high density model?
Well, we are looking for higher productivities, and we are trying planting more trees and different varieties as well. But mostly we're just trying to increase the productivity of our crops, of the existing ones and the ones that are new planted. In new plantations, basically we are planting more trees. Okay? We are increasing the density of our plantations, and also working with a lot of technology in improving the results of the existing ones. No? That we feel that we can always do better. And also after all these years, we have more clear. It's more clear for us what varieties are better suited for different climatic conditions and orographies and kinds of soils and stuff like that. So we are putting all that knowledge together in order to have higher productivity crops or groves.
In particular, Ramon, you mentioned about varieties. What do you believe are the challenges, the future terms in terms of new varieties?
Well, we've talked about it many times, but we really need a wider variety of oil profiles. No, I mean, we need something different to combine with our bequinas, no, and our bosanas that are very similar. To have a blend that gives us more options. No? So basically, we are planting already a lot of chiquitita and lechianas and all these new things coming up. No, but we're trying to be, or at least trying to try in our own fields most of the new varieties, because we really feel that's a crucial need for the system. Okay? We need that step, okay, to move a little bit out of our bequinas, to looking for a wider range of oil profiles, basically.
Thank you very much, Ramon. Good to see you again. Thanks for your participation.
Congratulations for the video.
Our next guest is Dan De Vico. Dan's family is very important in the olive oil business worldwide. The De Vico family started their business in Morocco, becoming the largest olive oil producer in this part of the world. Dan now is the CEO of Sunrise Olives Ranch and also manager of Pompeian Olive Oil. Both companies are significant players in the new U.S. olive oil industry. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Jorge. How are you? Very good here.
Good, thank you. Dan, what is your family position on the international olive scene and in particular in the USA?
Yes, so we are a family business. We have been dealing with olives in many forms since the 1950s. Obviously, first in Morocco. And we have now, if I'm not mistaken, about 5,000 acres of olive trees. And I will say out of that, maybe 1,000 acres of super high density olives. We started with a super high density in the early 2000. We did a test, first of all, in the Meknes area where we are from. And a few years later, we started to plant, I would say, in a higher scale. We have plans to add in the very near future another 1,500 acres, and that's still in Morocco. In the US, we started, as a family, we started investing in the US in 2005, also in the olive oil business. And in 2014, we started to plant olive trees even in California. So as of now, we have 1,700 acres planted in California, all in super high density. And we also plan to continue add about, I would say 1,000 acres maybe next year, and continuing on going on like that.
Dan, you have become the largest olive oil producer and trader in the USA. Can you explain your history to us a little bit more? How do you think your family become leaders of the olive oil industry in USA?
So we started exporting olive oil from Morocco in the early 1990s. because at that time there was a lot of trade barrier with Europe, and basically for Morocco, the US was one of the main market that was open. So we started to really invest in the US market, selling our olive oil mainly in bulk, and we start to have a good reputation with our very good extra virgin olive oil. And we made some connection with some customers, from AMD in the bulk to Pompeian in the retail. And one thing leads to another. We became partner with Pompeian at one point. We opened a facility here on the West Coast, and when we start doing some packing for a big club store, don't want to give a name now, but and obviously for the Pompeian brand as well. And with Pompeian and with the bulk business, we are now the #1 importer in the US. We are also #1 in retail with the Pompeian brand in the olive oil category, but especially in extra virgin. And we are now launching Pompeian California olive oil. In parallel, we are also doing some private label in California olive oil.
In your privileged position in the olive oil market in the US, how do you see the future of the consumption of olive oil in this country?
The consumption in the US of olive oil has been pretty steadily growing in, okay, good year, bad year, with almost the same rate. So the good news is that it's still growing, and we see that trend continuing because of the good quality of the olive oil, and in particular of the extra virgin olive oil, with nutrition and healthy nutrition and healthy habits. And I think the future for the olive oil is still growing here in the US.
Is there any difference between imported olive oil and locally produced olive oil from the consumer point of view in the United States?
The extra virgin olive oil in California, first of all, is only extra virgin. And there is a niche for the California olive oil because of the image of California in general, but also because of the olive oil that is produced here is actually, in reality, almost all of it based on super high density. And usually when you are, like, I would say, in the new market, you have that quality of oil because it's harvested mechanically. It's usually processed right away, and so you have a very good quality of olive oil. So the niche market of the California olive oil is because of the California origin, but also of the quality of the oil. Obviously, it's still a very small market. We are talking about maybe 3% of the overall consumption in the US, so it's basically I would say nothing, but because it exists, but it's really small.
Why do you think that super high density olive orchards may be an interesting alternative crop for Californian growers?
So again, in California, there have always been, but the last decade there was a lot of concern with drought and with water supply in California, and therefore there has been even some laws that are now in effect that is gonna limit a lot the quantity of water that's gonna be available to farmers. And for that reason, olives can be a good alternative, because the consumption of water for olives compared to other big crops is really low. For example, in our particular case, we are only using about 1.5 acre foot of water, when you compare that to 4, 5, 6, depending on other, I would say other trees or other even regular crop. That makes a big difference. So we think that in the future, when it's gonna be more and more restrictions, some growers may want to think about planting some olives, and therefore bringing the average consumption of acre foot per acre of water. Sorry, it's the other way around. They bring the average down. That will allow them to continue farming what they were farming before. Otherwise, they will have to basically keep some land free, which is a big cost.
So taking into account variables such the consumer opinion, local production of olive oil, and the relative quality, the mechanization, water supply, do you think that the olive trees can become a big crop in California in the future then?
I believe so. I believe it's going to be, well, big, I don't know. But it can continue growing, and it will probably continue growing a lot compared to what it is now. And like I said, obviously the water management is one of the reason, but there is also the fact that it is not labor intensive, because all the work can be mechanized, from obviously the harvest, but also the pruning. Basically everything can be mechanized, especially when the tree are 2 or 3 years old. And it's also very simple to manage. There's not a lot of disease. There's not a lot of things to do when you compare to, for example, pistachio, that you need to graft two different roots, compared to grapes, where you need to be very careful when you do the pruning. I mean, there is a lot of advantage. Obviously, it's also a crop that is very resistant to heat, to cold, to drought, and also it's a I would say a low investment crop when you compare again to grapes or almonds or pistachios. So at the end, it has some benefits. I would say the only downside will be that compared to almonds or pistachio or even grapes, that the value of the crop is not comparable. So obviously, yes, you have low investment, but at the end, you also have less valuable production. But on terms of return, it's pretty good, because you have low investment, so the return is still pretty good. Now, obviously, the second aspect is the super high density. And why super high density versus regular is because with the super high density, like I said before, you have even less manpower use with the harvester, like the one that you use in some grapes. And you basically have one guy that can harvest, 2 guys that can harvest maybe 10 acres a day. So it's really a good thing. And then on the cash flow management, and I'm getting maybe a little bit technical here, but on the cash flow management, the super high density is also good, because you start to have some money back after 2 or 3 years, and that helps in the management as well.
Thank you very much for your comments, Dan, as accurate as ever. Hope you enjoy the film.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope to be able to see you soon live.
We say goodbye to Dan, begin viewing the documentary The Crossroads of Chance. When it's over, don't leave. We will continue here in order to offer you the opinion of other experts. Remember, this is the history of the greatest agriculture revolution as explained by its pioneers.
The history of humanity is written where paths cross, where one must decide either to follow the usual route or take the path that leads to a destiny unknown. This is a story of pioneers. Pioneers who believed in themselves and who revolutionized olive growing throughout the world. And because of their vision, were accused of shameless recklessness.
Vam veure que una màquina de collir raïms normal i corrent, amb el sistema de vibració, podia fer caure les olives i recollir-les.
En aquel momento fue muy revolucionario, pues pusimos 26.000 plantas en 10 hectáreas.
Hay que pensar que es un cambio de paradigma total.
Es entender la olivicultura de una forma totalmente distinta.
C'est la plus grande révolution oléicole depuis le Moyen Âge, on peut dire.
Gli impianti super intensivi rappresentano la vera rivoluzione nel mondo olivicolo.
I would just say it's a big breakthrough, and it will change the production of olive oil worldwide.
This is a story of a revolution, of brave individuals who dared to try something that no one had tried before, embarking on a path of uncertain destiny.
Hace más de 25 años, nosotros compramos una máquina para cosechar la uva. En aquel momento la máquina valía muchísimo dinero y realmente la máquina pues trabajaba un mes al año, ¿no? Y pensando qué demonios podríamos hacer con la máquina, se nos ocurrió que las aceitunas tenían más o menos el mismo tamaño que los granos de la uva. Y si pudiéramos hacer la aceituna en espaldera, cogimos la máquina de cosechar la uva y vimos que las aceitunas caían casi mejor que la uva. Dijimos, ja tenim la solució.
Era una primera experiència, ningú sabíem què sortiria i va sortir per la part nostra amb una acceptació molt interessant.
Y un buen amigo que quiso correr esa aventura fue Jordi Miernau, que tenía una finca cerca de entre Reus y Tarragona, una finca importante, una finca de 100 hectáreas, que no tenía nada, tenía la propiedad, pero agrícolamente no hacía nada. Yo le dije, mira, si tú quieres, nosotros hacemos la plantación, tú pones la tierra, hacemos una sociedad y empezamos a plantar la primera finca en Cataluña de olivos. Fue la Boella. Casi hacíamos reír a la gente que nos veía plantar aquello, porque vosotros sabéis que cuando plantamos una planta de olivos es una planta pequeñita. Los agricultores de aquella época estaban acostumbrados a plantar una planta grande. Decían, ¿qué demonios están haciendo estos señores de Barcelona que no tienen ni idea? Y resulta que están plantando cebollas en vez de olivos.
Jo diria que d'aquesta fase dels pioners hi ha la Boella a Tarragona, també podríem dir contemporàniament hi ha a Valonga.
La primera collita que vaig veure en cara i ulls va ser aquí, a Valonga. Nosaltres havíem plantat ja i ells va ser l'any que van collir. Recordo que va vindre moltíssima gent a veure-ho. Va ser la primera demostració de collita mecanitzada que va haver.
El meu pare és un boig que ha cregut sempre en uns ideals i quan ha cregut en alguna cosa s'ha llançat fins a fons. No? Vaja, era com una cosa, una novetat, però bueno, ell es va llançar amb tota la il·lusió del món. Ho vivíem molt de prop a casa, no? Van ser uns anys molt xulos.
Devia ser aquesta època que estàvem parlant amb el teu pare, quan un senyor que es diu Joan Urpí, que avui ja és mort, diu, escolta, mira, jo veient el que esteu fent, crec que hi ha l'arbussana, que que en aquell moment molt poca gent sabia el que era l'arboçana, i no ho sé, l'inventari podia ser de 100 o de 200 arbres en tot el món. I diu, aquesta varietat, diu, té que anar de conya amb el que vosaltres esteu fent. Diu, perquè, clar, creix menys, és més rústica i tal. Diu, i aquí teníem un rabasser que portava terres, que tothom sabia que era bastant gandul, que el que va fer és reempaltar les seves arbequines d'arboçana perquè si no la podes tant, si no la bones tant, és estable en producció, l'únic que creix menys, no? I de fet és veritat, té un vigor d'un 30 o un 40% menys que arbequina, però l'estabilitat productiva és màxima.
Bueno, hay un defecto fundamental y es que en realidad el agricultor tradicional nunca había seleccionado variedades pensando en que una máquina iba a pasar por encima del seto. Y adaptar la máquina al árbol y el árbol a la máquina ha sido posiblemente el reto más importante que haya habido durante todo este tiempo.
Porque la idea que había era que el olivo no era un árbol del tamaño de la vid. El olivo se había seleccionado para ser un árbol grande y una cosechadora era impensable que pudiera tragarse un árbol de esas dimensiones. Quizás nosotros en la universidad, el grupo nuestro, como conocíamos mejor las variedades, por haber hecho la prospección de variedades en todo el mundo y haber evaluado ya en el banco de germoplasma, veíamos que había variedades de olivo que eran más pequeñas, que tenían menos vigor. Y de ahí que dijimos, vamos a probarlo porque le veíamos ciertas posibilidades al sistema.
Hay una frase de Machado que a mí me gusta mucho, que dice que la vida es la senda del azar.
Pues sí.
Yo creo que el desarrollo del olivar de seto tiene mucho, como toda la agricultura en general, toda la innovación en la agricultura tiene mucho de senda del azar. Y voy a poner un ejemplo muy claro. Nosotros cuando empezamos el programa buscamos variedades de sitios muy diferentes y con hábitos de fructificación y de vigor muy distintas. Y hubo uno de los cruzamientos que fue arbequina por picual, que resulta que ha sido un cruzamiento que ha dado muchos descendientes de precoz entrada en producción y de porte compacto.
Era una andaluza.
Una andaluza con una catalana. No, pero bueno, yo lo que creo es que es un buen ejemplo, porque nosotros al principio, los cruzamientos se hicieron en el año 91 cuando todavía no había ninguna variedad en seto, no estábamos pensando en eso. Pues bien, hasta la fecha, después de 29 años, las tres primeras variedades, Chiquitita 1 que se registra en 2008, y Chiquitita 2 y Chiquitita 3, que salen ahora a concurso en el mes de noviembre, todas eran hijas de ese padre arbequino y esa madre picual.
És que, clar, si ho mirem ara 25 anys després, quasi que sembla que hi ha una cronologia de fets i d'accions-reaccions totalment mesurades i que hasta algú racionalment les ha pensades. I res més lluny de la realitat perquè les coses van anar produint sobre la marxa.
Questa foto invece mi è particolarmente cara perché risale al 6 dicembre del 2005 e ritrae proprio la macchina scavallatrice che per la prima volta ha vendemmiato le olive in Italia. Il miglioramento genetico dell'olivo, come per tutte le altre specie arboree da frutto, non è una tecnica che abbiamo inventato nel XXI secolo, ma la maggior parte delle varietà dei fruttiferi provengono da un miglioramento genetico fatto anche secoli fa. Quindi è una tecnica assolutamente innocua e l'uomo non fa altro che copiare dalla natura. E quindi nel 1998 fu iniziato un programma di breeding il cui obiettivo principale era proprio la riduzione della vigoria di questa specie arborea da frutto. E dopo 15 anni la lecciana è nata come selezione precommerciale e quindi adesso la lecciana comincia a diffondersi su tutti i continenti.
Va arribar un punt que ja es veia que el cultiu ja no podia evolucionar més per adaptar-se a la màquina i va ser quan la màquina va fer un pas per adaptar-se al cultiu. I va ser una aposta en comú en el que avui s'utilitza per collir. Són màquines amb més envergadura, que han guanyat en rapidesa, amb menys pèrdues, amb menys agressives pel cultiu, tractant més l'oliva, que surt perfecta. I l'evolució jo crec que ha estat per les dues parts. La maquinària s'ha adaptat, però el cultiu també s'ha adaptat a la maquinària.
Il y avait une ligne électrique. Et mon fils était monté sur le poteau et il a filé. Mon cas personnel est très particulier. Moi, j'ai une petite surface, j'ai même pas 8 hectares. Et je fais tout moi-même. D'ailleurs, vous allez pouvoir constater que c'est pas très bien fait. Parce que Shibani Bezef.
Si c'est aussi bon que le café, je suis tranquille.
Donc, on a démarré ici, aidé par les conseils catalans. Donc on a pris des risques, on a planté, et on a fait des bêtises évidemment. Et puis dans la région, il y avait une certaine animosité vis-à-vis de cette technique. Donc on a marché sur les œufs au début.
Los comienzos sí fue muy difícil por esa oposición del sector, de la academia y los pioneros que se atrevían y se jugaban su dinero, los trataban en muchos casos de locos. Pero cuando ya esas primeras plantaciones pasaron de esos momentos iniciales de los 5, 6, 7 años, ya no he visto ningún peligro de que esto pudiera volver atrás.
Nosotros cometimos errores en la finca de la Boella, como es lógico en la primera plantación. En aquella zona hay un viento muy importante que sopla muy fuerte en enero, febrero y a partir de esta época, y nosotros no plantamos las plantas de los olivos en la misma dirección del viento, lo cual quiere decir que después el viento nos causaba problemas muy graves porque estaban precisamente puestas en sentido contrario.
El tema de la gelada va ser un punt d'inflexió. Suposo que si no hagués hagut aquest període de gelades intenses, a tota la zona nord i indudablement també Valonga hagués plantat molta més superfície. L'any 2001 va col·locar les coses una mica al seu lloc.
Inclús va afectar també a les velles.
Sí,
a les velles plantacions, no només les noves, va ser tot...
Va ser un desastre.
De totes maneres, també això va ajudar a demostrar una cosa col·lateral, que és que la recuperació d'aquest tipus de plantacions respecte a les tradicionals, en cas de gelada, la recuperació és molt més ràpida.
Hoy hay legión de investigadores trabajando en todas partes del mundo en el desarrollo de los nuevos sistemas intensivos y en particular en el seto. Eso en el año 1993, cuando nace el sistema, no existía. Y era el agricultor adquiriendo sus propios riesgos el que se lanzaba a una aventura que podía salir o podía no salir.
Pero yo no quiero tirar piedra al tejado de la investigación, pues vivimos de eso. Pero aquí en Andalucía no gustaba que viniera un sistema nuevo a cambiarlo todo, hubo una oposición total. Fíjate que estamos con Vitorino, que fue de los que estaban en la oposición al principio.
Sí. No es que me opusiese, lo que pasa es que me plantaba o me ponía enfrente. ¿Por qué? Porque se quería vender un modelo productivo que se planteaba como más económico que las plantaciones intensivas en aquel momento. Y eso no era así. Eso nunca ha sido así.
La oposición, la crítica del sector que no aceptaba este nuevo sistema era la durabilidad.
Tout le monde disait à l'époque que ces oliviers-là, il fallait les arracher au bout de 7, 8, 10 ans. Bon, aujourd'hui, le plus vieux verger, à 20 ans, il en a encore pour longtemps.
Et dans 200 ans, on sera encore là.
Bien après nous. Quand ils ont commencé à planter les premiers vergers en hyperintensif en Espagne, j'ai regardé ça et j'avais quelques doutes pour être honnête. Surtout que je viens d'un pays où l'olivier est millénaire, où on a toute la tradition de culture, etc. Mais en 99, j'ai vu le verger qui était à la Buela et on m'a montré, chiffres à l'appui, qu'on avait fait le payback, on avait fait le remboursement sur investissement du verger. Moi, je sais que mon grand-père plantait des oliviers qui commençaient à produire après 12 ans et qui faisaient le remboursement au bout de 25 ans. Oui. Donc je me suis dit, qu'est-ce que je risque? Et on a commencé comme ça à planter le premier verger. Et on a fait le remboursement en 5 ans et demi du verger. Et donc de là est partie l'expérience dans mon pays. Les gens sont venus très très nombreux observer et ont commencé à planter.
También tenemos en estos momentos plantaciones en Marruecos, que tampoco tienen problema de mano de obra, pero las plantaciones nuevas que se hacen de olivos en Marruecos son en espaldera y son intensivas.
Oui. Moi, j'ai de la chance aussi de confronter un Français qui travaillait au Maroc. À l'époque, en 1996, il m'a amené une collection de variétés d'oliviers que j'ai mis en expérimentation à différentes densités. Et c'est là où vraiment l'Arbiquina était spectaculaire au point de vue productivité. Et c'est comme ça que le super intensif commence à rentrer au Maroc et à se discuter, malgré beaucoup de gens qui étaient contre.
Aussi.
Je raconte toujours l'histoire de quand l'électricité a commencé à se développer dans le monde. Dans une ville où il y avait des marchands de lampes à pétrole, c'était les premiers à s'opposer. Les yeux, l'électricité, c'est très mauvais, il ne faut pas introduire l'électricité, les gens vont mourir, il va se passer quelque chose. Pourquoi? Parce qu'ils ne voulaient pas que leur commerce meure. À la fin, ceux qui investissent les premiers dans l'électricité, c'est eux, parce qu'ils ont compris que c'est un combat perdu d'avance. Et ceux qui étaient les plus réticents contre le système intensif d'olivier sont ceux qui plantent le plus aujourd'hui. Parce qu'au début, ils ont résisté, après, ils ont vu qu'il fallait...
Des gens intelligents.
Voilà, heureusement.
Qui raisonnent.
On est dans un objectif de 10 000 hectares. 10 000 hectares, c'est un objectif vraiment on piffe comme ça, mais si on trouve le terrain, on trouve de l'eau, peut-être on va dépasser les 15 000 hectares.
Bravo.
Énorme projet.
Et espérons le réaliser dans les 6 premières années à venir.
Y entonces fue cuando por aquella época tú me invitaste a visitar Agromillora.
Sí.
Y durante la visita me acuerdo que siempre te referías a que no se había llegado a conseguir producir aceitunas y aceite en ciertos países por el coste de la mano de obra, especialmente Estados Unidos, que puede ser el primer mercado del mundo. Y claro, en aquella visita, hablando contigo, bueno, se me quedó la idea y por la noche y al día siguiente y la semana siguiente. Y bueno, aquello fue rapidísimo. Compramos un rancho muy cerca de Sacramento, y empezamos a plantar y a producir. De ahí nació la creación de California Olive Ranch, que es el mayor productor de aceite en Estados Unidos hoy día.
Y después hubo otro amigo muy bueno, Cortapassi, italiano, que este sí que es italiano de verdad, que también plantó al principio y estaba entusiasmado el hombre.
Y era un monstruo.
Un monstruo impresionante.
Y quiso meterse cuando supo que nosotros iniciábamos.
Vino hace un año y medio y comió aquí en mi casa. Tenemos una muy buena relación, yo le aprecio muchísimo, es un gran personaje.
Six generations of Cortapassis had made olive oil, and I was the seventh. And I said, damn it, I got to make olive oil. And so we began going around all of Tuscany looking for people who had figured out a way to semi-mechanize this harvest. Along in that period, something happened that really changed the game. And it was that a group of Spaniards had come to California and had established a new way of growing olives, in effect on a trellis, and harvesting them with a grape harvester. And I was fascinated by that idea. I flew up to visit their very first olive grove in our helicopter, and I flew over that, and I landed and I said, this is going to work.
I think the group that you ultimately became friends with was Agronomy and the Sumarocas and others, correct?
Correct, because Agronomy was led by a real entrepreneur who became a good friend of mine, Carlos Sumaroca. So we went to Spain and he came here, and that was the beginning.
Pero el aceite californiano en calidad es tan bueno o mejor que el que puede venir de Europa.
Sí, porque hemos conseguido que en tiempos de cosecha, en 3 horas desde que se cosecha hasta que se lleva al molino, ya tenemos el aceite produciéndose. O sea, es unos tiempos récords que esto influye muchísimo en la calidad.
If you can harvest the olives when they're at the optimum maturity point, you're going to make good oil. Yeah. You're going to make good oil. I mean, you can screw it up if you're not good at making oil, but you're going to make good oil.
I don't know how that relates to, your heritage as an Italian, because you grew up with olive oil. I grew up in a butter eating family, but I have very much embraced the olive oil culture.
Non c'è problemi, hai imparato bene.
Grazie.
Después de Estados Unidos, el primer país en donde se ha plantado más olivos yo creo que es Chile. Chile en estos momentos debe estar entre 15 y 20.000 hectáreas. Nuestro amigo Alfonso Suet, él solo tiene más de 3.000.
Esto nosotros lo empezamos el año 2004, o sea, tenemos 15 años ya y tenemos ciertas conclusiones.
La verdad, Alfonso, que
Cuando nosotros partimos con este desafío de superintensivo, tuvimos bastantes voces que nos decían cómo se meten en eso. Yo estaba muy asustado. Con el pasar del tiempo, antes de 6 meses, supe que te metías tú en el mismo negocio y yo dije, bueno, pude respirar un poco más tranquilo, porque si te metías tú ya era porque algo había investigado.
Uno de los problemas que encontramos fue el climático. Chile no era un país donde el olivo tuviera alguna presencia. Hubo que experimentar mucho, investigar después mucho para corregir. Yo te diría que las mayores dificultades de este negocio están en los mercados. El poder reconocer a Chile como un producto bueno, como lo es, de muy buena calidad.
Estados Unidos es nuestro principal cliente. Ya, yo creo que le despachamos aproximadamente el 70% de nuestra producción. Tenemos en Brasil, tenemos en Colombia, tenemos muy poco en Japón, algo en China.
I allí veus com el que a l'altre costat de món feien com una cosa estranya, dius, hosti, esta gent, això ho fan, se pot també fer a casa nostra. I al revés, anar allà a ensenyar-los el que hem fet aquí. Llavors ha estat una contínua evolució, però entre totes les plantacions que han fet aquest conglomerat. Podem parlar des del petit agricultor que pot tindre avui una explotació de 20 o 30 hectàrees, fins a les grans finques, com pot ser l'Aia i l'Oliva, que entre els dos tenen més de 20.000 hectàrees avui plantades i en producció.
Claro, tu área, tus soluciones, tu mundo es tan de otra galaxia que el mío, pues evidentemente podía parecer que dice, pues ¿cómo vamos a encontrar soluciones comunes para situaciones tan distintas? Pues al final resulta que este tipo de plantaciones tenéis los mismos problemas que yo.
El sistema es fantástico porque tiene todos los aspectos positivos, no es que sean para una dimensión o para otra, son intrínsecos del sistema, ¿no? Entran rápido en producción, lo podemos cosechar cuando queremos, entre comillas. La calidad de luego el aceite y de la fruta es fantástica.
Exactamente. Yo inicié este tipo de plantaciones en el año 1998, que tienen ya prácticamente 22 años. A mí me daba vergüenza decir que tenía 26.000 árboles, pero
claro, cuando se medía por olivos.
Cuando se medía por olivos. Dice que tienes 26.000 olivos, pero este es un fantasma, un gilipollas o las dos cosas. Porque es inconcebible, claro.
Oye, nosotros vamos por más de 19 millones.
Me imagino, exactamente. O sea, que aquí vamos juntos, pero separados. Lo mismo, pero no, juntos, pero no revueltos. ¿Sí? Aquí que cada uno está en su mundo y evidentemente, si tuvieras mi finca, si un día quieres venir a verla, hemos sacado unas fotos y es tremendamente movida.
Hay cultivos que son más intensivos en mano de obra que nuestros olivares, pero no son justo lo que había aquí antes. O sea, aquí las grandes extensiones cerealistas no generan trabajo, no generan mano de obra. Y no solo eso, o sea, nosotros no es que solo generemos más mano de obra, sino que además la generamos más especializada. Creamos una industria auxiliar que antes no existía. Es un trabajo de mejor calidad y con un potencial profesional para la gente, yo creo que con muchísimo más futuro. El cultivo del olivo, entendido como un cultivo de regadío, es de los menos exigentes en agua y además hoy en día también hay mucho conocimiento para hacerlo muy bien y estamos volviendo a generar un bosque donde no había. Así, yo creo que eso tiene unos beneficios indudables.
Hace 20 años se consumían en el mundo 1.500.000 toneladas, ahora se consumen 3 millones de toneladas. No conozco yo otro sector, probablemente el tecnológico sí, en el que haya habido un crecimiento tan espectacular. Digamos que hay ese modelo de triple hélice, que de vez en cuando funciona muy bien, donde se da investigación, se da empresas que quieren invertir y apostar su dinero, y se dan luego pioneros que son los primeros que invierten. Yo creo que esa ha sido un poco la secuencia, ¿no?, que yo he vivido y he podido ver en el desarrollo del olivar en seto, ¿no?
Questa svolta però non è soltanto un fatto economico e paesaggistico, è anche un fatto ecologico. Gli impianti super intensivi ad oggi li dovremmo chiamare super sostenibili, perché a parità di produzione oggi è possibile risparmiare acqua, concimi, luce e suolo, che sono fattori naturali e non rinnovabili.
Now, in terms of California per se, that wherever growers are a little bit short of water, olives quickly leap to the surface compared to almonds, because almonds require 4 acre-feet water per acre per year. Olives require 2.
Half the water requirements of almonds.
Ahora mismo la diferenciación del aceite de oliva se han basado fundamentalmente en los efectos positivos para la salud, pero hay muchos elementos para la diferenciación. Un segundo eje tiene mucho que ver con esto, que es todo el tema de sostenibilidad. Este no es un cultivo que demande gran cantidad de agua, en absoluto, no tiene nada que ver con un cereal, no digamos con un maíz, no tiene nada que ver con un arroz, esto es otra cosa, ¿no? Esto consume muy poco.
Esto es una revolución, ¿no? Eso es un cambio conceptual total, ¿no? Es de hacer un cultivo más tradicional, las primeras transformaciones allá a los olivares intensivos, una formación de un eje, y esto ya es un salto, es entender la olivicultura de una forma totalmente distinta.
Certament, aquest moment de transformació es havia de produir en un moment o altre, perquè podíem parlar de que prèviament estàvem en un cultiu totalment arcaic. De fet, si ressuscita un romà, reconeixeria les varietats, la manera de podar, la d'abonar. El romà ho faria igual que el que es feia fa 30 anys.
El hecho de cosechar una hectárea con una máquina, comparado con lo que significaba antes cosechar una hectárea, el proceso productivo yo encuentro que fue revolucionario.
Hay una previsión que habla de que en el año 2030 habrá en el mundo unos 13 millones de hectáreas. Y se habla de que probablemente un 20% de esos 13 millones de hectáreas pueden ser de superintensivo.
I guess I wonder, what it takes to have the strength of character or vision to move forward on ideas that other people just don't understand or see yet.
If you go to any beach in the world and you look out into the ocean, you can see 3 miles. If you climb that bluff and stand 100 feet higher and look out at the same ocean, you can see 13 miles. Most people do not climb the bluff to see 13 miles. I do.
Pero fíjate una cosa, Nacho, yo creo que nosotros hicimos todo esto porque tenemos un cierto espíritu de aventura o de riesgo, o llamarle como queráis. Si no se tiene este espíritu, esto no se hace.
Y sobre todo, lo que nos hemos divertido.
Así, esto es verdad, hemos disfrutado muchísimo.
Jo al meu cap sempre hi ha el tema d'innovació, perquè és el futur que tenim. No podem estar igual que 100 anys enrere, hem d'evolucionar. I a l'agricultura s'ha d'investigar molt i s'ha de progressar moltíssim. Els temps han canviat. Molt bé. Doncs si han canviat i no llaurem amb una mula blanca, també podem recollir les olives amb una màquina.
De toute façon, c'est très passionnant. La révolution est très passionnante.
Yo mirando el negocio hacia futuro, yo creo que uno ya tiene su inversión, ya tiene su know-how y tiene su entusiasmo como para tener éxito y se puede lograr.
El sistema está súper consolidado, el potencial de años, ¿no?, que era uno de los grandes dilemas al principio, yo creo que está ultrapasado, ¿no? Y probablemente los nuevos retos que tenemos son pues, de más variedades, de mayores productividades, pero en términos generales yo creo que ya a día de hoy no hay un olivicultor en el mundo que lo ponga en duda. Es una batalla conseguida, ¿no?, una batalla ganada.
If you're going to be a pioneer, you have to be willing to make mistakes. just as we've made some mistakes and we've figured things out. You got to be willing to take a few arrows and you're behind in order to be a pioneer and keep on going.
This is a tale of courage, of men and women who were not afraid to choose the uncertain path that lay ahead of them, who took risks, and who between them achieved advances in civilization. Because history doesn't wait. What yesterday seemed like madness, tomorrow will be called heritage. This is a story of pioneers.
We hope you liked the documentary. It is a pleasure to share it with you. As we mentioned previously, we will now continue to discuss super high density with some other experts. Our next guest is one of the protagonists of the documentary, Professor Salvatore Camposeo from Bari University in Italy. Professor Camposeo is one of the lead researchers of the University of Bari and one of the world's main experts on the Leciana olive variety. Professor Camposeo, buongiorno, good morning, how are you?
Very fine, buongiorno.
Professor, what do you think of the documentary?
Hi, first of all, I would like to thank Agronomy Group, and in particular my friend Jordi for the invitation. I congratulate you. The movie is beautiful. To see the work made during the last 25 years by many people in different corners of the world is really amazing. This exciting movie represents the timely opportunity to remember Professor Angelo Godini, my master, with gratitude, dear Jordi. The study, the experimental field made by the research equipe at Bari University during the last 2 decades were rich of trouble, as you know. But the reward was good, with good result in terms of save yield, save income, save employment, save environment for olive oil sector where super high density cropping seeds were made. This movie catch all of this.
Salvatore, thanks Salvatore for your comments. By the way, you in the documentary you mentioned several times that super high density is a sustainable model. Please, could you expand on this idea a little more?
Yeah, the sustainability is an objective of our research. When we started to study super high density, the aims of our studies is to try to produce more and better olive oil with less input of natural resources as water, because you know the sentence is no water, no future. So this is the goal, the aims of all our research. In order to demonstrate the high environmental sustainability of this new cropping system, super high density, we made different research, and we focus the attention how to measure the sustainability. The sustainability could be measured by carbon footprint, water footprint, and bioindicators. The data about carbon footprint are still elaborating, and so we can publish as soon possible. But with the water footprint, we published already an interesting paper. The result showed that the water footprint of super high density olive orchard was almost half values with respect to traditional olive cropping system. In other terms, traditional oliviculture possesses a double impact on water footprint. It's very worse about this point of view. And no difference we found between intensive and super high density. The result show that the modernization of the oliviculture lead to less impact of agriculture in the environmental impact. Another way to demonstrate the sustainability of this new cropping system, I'd measure the bioindicators. In the high density cropping systems, does not pollute the environment, because we found the flowering of orchids that you see, you know, are the delicate species from an ecological point of view. For many years, we observed in plots with super high density of olive the flowering in late spring of orchids that possess entomophilous pollination. In the same plots everywhere, the Apulia region where we make this study, we observed the fruiting bodies of fungi of genus Coprinus. Coprinus is a bioindicator of a pollution biomarker of microelements, pollutants, and heavy metals. So all this result, we can output the sentences that a super high density cultivation can improve the environmental sustainability of the fruit tree cultivation now. Finally, in the same olive orchard, we observe the nests of the birds. When we try to understand the species, we already surprising that we know that this bird are food the insects. So we confirm that the sustainability of this model is very increasing. And so we can write many articles that are sentences, this one. Super high density is equal to super high sustainability. High density is true that are high sustainability. Economic and environment are not catch perfectly when in field we apply the novelty, the right way to conduct the olive growing.
talking about impacts, can we talk about the impact of the Lechana variety from the University of Bari, and especially with regard to the super high density system, Professor Camposeo?
Well, Lechana is a fruit of the many interesting collaboration between Agronomy Group and University of Bari started many years ago. Lechana is a fruit of the specific breeding program lead to obtain a low vigor cultivar with seed parental Lechana and pollen parental is an Italian cultivar Lecchino. Lechana is a medium to low vigor variety that possesses characteristics that fit in perfectly with the super high density requirements in terms of morphological and yield parameters. Lechana starts to produce at the second, third year after planting with a low level of alternate bearing index. In Greater California, the flowering period is the mid of May, and harvesting is about within October. At this time, when the pigmentation index of Lechana olives is between 2 and 3, Lechana possesses about 15% of extra virgin olive oil, and in particular, the polyphenol content in the olive oil extracted by this cultivar is fitting perfectly with health claims stated many years ago by the American Food and Drug Administration, and more recently by the European Food Security Agency. When an olive oil possesses at mill a concentration in polyphenol over 300%, 300% of polyphenol, this oil could be inserted in high category of extra virgin olive oil. And so Lechana possesses a claim, a health claim that can use it by olive growers to increase the value of the oil. Moreover, Lechana possesses not only an agronomic sustainability, because the morphological characteristics fit perfectly with what required by super high density, but could allow the reduction of half costs the oil production, and the quality of the oil is extra virgin with health claim and a longer shelf life of this oil. With Lechana now, the olive growers could really made in field the digital agriculture, the smart agriculture that now is called as agriculture 4.0. With Lechana now is possible to made in field the best way to manage the fruit crop.
Thank you very much for your words, Professor Camposeo, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you.
Finally, we connect with Jim Hollingworth from Australia. Jim is the operation manager of Finney Olive Ranch, one of the largest olive oil producer in Australia and pioneer of the system 12 years ago in that country. Hello, Jim. First question required. What do you think of the documentary?
Okay, the documentary I found really interesting. It was great to see something like that put together after 25 years. It was especially good for me to see the original people involved in the ideas, concepts, development of that. Yes, it's very, very interesting and very rewarding for those guys, I would think, to see that. And seeing other countries embracing the concept, the spread into other countries around the world was very interesting part of it. And yes, it was interesting. They touched on some points about negativity, that reasons why it wouldn't work, and we had all that here when we started what we were doing here, and that it's proved to be wrong, the negativity. So yes, it's nice being right. So yes, it was really, really good. They should be very proud of that. Going to show that to several people to promote it here more. So yeah, it's great. Whoever put it together should be congratulated.
You were the first to plan according super high density system 12 years ago. What acres do you have? Please, can you, Jim, tell us, explain us about your project?
Sure. So in 2008, I went to Olive Conference on the east coast of Australia, and there was a stall there from Agronomy, and I'd seen some literature on the super high density concept, and so after attending that conference, I spent a bit of time at the display by Agronomy, and I was very, very interested. And one of the reasons I was so interested is I came from a broadacre agriculture, what they call broadacre agriculture in Australia. So the concept made perfect sense to me. The ease around the harvesting, mechanical pruning, doing things on a bigger scale here, our high labour cost. We had to be very conscious of these things. And so the concept made perfect sense to me. And so in 2009, we did a 40-hectare trial area of the main varieties involved. And that was done with a trellis system. We basically followed the techniques we'd seen, I'd been advised to do. We were so impressed with the results that in 2013, we decided to do the rest of the plantation area. So removal of the old style plantation, which was done on a 7.5 by 5 metre row spacing. So that was 400 hectares we undertook to replant over 3 or 4 years. And so we decided to do a 4 by 1.5 metre row spacing. And it seems like a long time ago now, so that was 2013. But so the whole plantation on this Finney property, 440 hectares, is now super high density planting. So we by 2000 and it's been very interesting. One of the other reasons we looked at it was the water efficiency. Water in the olive growing areas has become a valuable commodity. As you know, the areas that tend to be suited to olive production or olive oil production, usually drier areas. We're lucky enough here to have a good winter rainfall, but we're still dependent on underground water for irrigation. So it was important to understand the concept of water usage, water efficiency, systems that would suit this environment. So that was one of the other reasons we looked closely at it. And after negativity, criticism, if you like, we got to the point about 2-3 years ago where people were so interested in what we'd done, they were starting to visit the property or asking to visit the property to see what we've done, because the concept was clearly working and making sense to them. So it's not easy being up out the front saying, you know, we're going to do this and do that, and then making it work, but it's working. And yeah, we're very proud of what we've done.
Thank you, Jim. Why do you think super high density olive groves might represent an interesting crop for growers in Australia?
Oh, sure. Look, one of the big attractions should be, as I described, the climatic conditions in these areas is the early into production. So you've got 3 years, management's correct in that, you've got 3 years you're getting a return off the tree. So that should be one of the driving factors. It can be integrated in with other crops as well, being the harvest and growing period. I would imagine it can be integrated quite easily with other crops. So growers can do from, ranging from a small area to a very large area. And one of the advantages of that with the mobility of the harvesters that are used in super high density, I mean, contract harvesting, contract mechanical pruning, all these jobs, an attractive way for people. They don't have to invest big money in big machinery and time-consuming machinery, high on maintenance. That would be one of the driving thing, the water use concept. I can see it being, I mean, we've been asked quite a few times here about if we put in, say, 20 hectares, 40 hectares, can you process? We have a large processing plant on the property. Can we contract process for them? Can we work with them to develop that? So within a radius of 100 kilometres from the farm, we can get other growers that are very interested in doing areas of that size and feed into a main facility like this. So yeah, that'd be the main reasons I can see that I can see it working very well here. It's the key would be that getting a return on your capital quickly. And with the demand growing in Australia for olive oil, we've got almost unprecedented demand at the moment. I think there's certainly an area there we can, as an industry, could branch into super high density.
Thank you for your response, Jim. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.
No problem. Yes. As soon as all this madness in the world stops, we might be able to catch up.
Over these 25 years, there have been many doubts, difficulties, and inconveniences. But with the final results, we hope to have clarified all your doubts regarding the super high density olive model. With this new model, olive growing has new future full of opportunities, not only in California, but also in the rest of the world. Producers have an alternative to existing cultivation methods, one where they can produce a healthy product for which demand is increasing in a sustainable way, as Professor Camposeo described, with minimum labor and water use, and making it possible to exploit poor soils. These are undoubtedly essential requirements for producers in California and the rest of the world production areas. And so here we arrive at the end of this experience that, due to the extraordinary circumstances, we have had to share online, despite the fact that this was not our initial idea. However, we managed to find an alternative. Adaptation is in our nature. We hope you enjoyed this special event and that we'll be able to see each other again soon. A big hug and see you soon. Thank you.